Okay, so welcome to Mobocratic Union, a political simulation game focused on the European Parliament, where you play as a member of the European Parliament. My name is Juuso. I'm one of the developers of this game, and today I thought that we'd take a short overview of the game with a commentary here on YouTube. So here you see the main menu, and you see that we have a Discord channel. Feel free to join us to share your development ideas, opinions, or whatever you have to say. So we try to listen to what people are saying there, but of course we work with a constricted amount of time and other resources. So just remember that not everything that's proposed can be implemented right away, but we're slowly working on improving the game based on recommendations from the players. Okay, so here is the main menu, and you can see that here we have different options. Here is the credit screen. You can see who has contributed to creating the game. We have the amendment packs, and how this works basically is that you can activate or inactivate different kinds of amendments based on your gameplay preferences. Let's say that you want to work in a very dry way and focus on exactly what the European Union is mostly about. So you can say that, okay, I want to have some immigration policies, I want to have border security, packaging materials or whatever, and you think that, you know, all this stuff that has to do with domestic policies, that's something that the European Union has no say over in real life. Well, partially that's how it is. So let's say that you want to inactivate it to get a more authentic experience, and then you can, as said, based on your preferences, you can activate and inactivate different kinds of amendments. And by opening the files, you can actually see which kind of amendments are placed in whichever folder, and based on this you can pick and play. Basically, you can pick your favorite amendments from your favorite categories and so on. You can even make your own ones. On a later video, we'll show how to do that as well. Okay, so now let's play the game. So here you see the MEP's office background, and here we have our assistant who gives us some instructions on what to do. Now I'll just respond to this political quiz randomly, because I just want to get along with it. And here we get some basic information about the different European Parliament groups and committees. And what we basically did just there with the quiz was that we responded to these questions, and based on our responses we proposed a group to join. In this case, my random responses gave me the Greens, but let's say that I want to be a part of the far-right group, Identity and Democracy, or non-inscrits. That's a mixed bag of different people. So I can choose it from here. I can pick which committee I'll be part of. I currently want to play with environment, public health, and food security, because that's where most of the amendments are placed in. We're working on redistributing them to have them correspond more to their actual areas and categories, but right now it's some of them are more of placeholders than actual placements. We're still working on it. And let's say that I choose as a country I want to be France, and we have the option of choosing the gender as well. Let's say that I want to be a man in France. Okay, this guy looks cool, but I think that he has too much hair. Okay, now it's great. So I'm Christophe Richard from France, part of the non-inscrits political party or European Parliament group, and I'm a member of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety Committee. Okay, now we begin the game. And here is the office screen again. And now we get some more information here, and this is the basic screen where you can see the European map, and you can see that these countries that are colored in a darker bluish grayish tone, they are the neutral countries that are not part of the European Union. That's why you can click them. But the ones that are members, so they are color coded with the color of the political party that has the majority in that country. And you can click on the country view and you see the results of the European elections. You see the latest poll results, Right now it's turn 1, so there's no changes here. You see the vote distribution and seat distribution. You can even go and see candidates for each separate party. You can see all candidates distributed based on their popularity. This is the most popular person. She's from the Socialists and Democrats center-left group. Her ideology is social democracy, liberalism, internationalism, conservation, skepticism, and elitism. Okay, such a person. Okay, and that's basically it. Here we see some statistics. These are the prestige points that we gather by appointing new staff. I'll show it in a while how it's done. We see how many MEPs we can influence right now, members of the European Parliament. Here we see how many proposal block chances we have, and this is dependent on our operations that we can assign to our staff members. Then we see our current bank balance, we see our surplus, we see our public funding for staff left. We'll go through these stuff right away on the next turn. We play as France, we see when the next election is coming, we see our own votes, we see our own popularity rank compared to the other parliamentarians from France, and we see whether or not we would get elected based on the poll data. And here is your staff strength. It's a rough meter, like, you know, you see if it's here, that means that it's better, if it's here, it's worse. So there's not much more of that to be said. This is the visual representation of the distribution of seats between different European Parliament groups, and also the number of seats here. And yeah, that's the basic view. Then we have two buttons here, and we can see here the results for all the European countries, for all the European Parliament groups, how it's been in the last elections. The European People's Party, the center-right party, got the majority here, but the Socialists and Democrats were not far behind the center-left party. Then we have the Renew Europe, which is the centrist liberal group, which came third. We have the left, which is the left-wing group, which came fourth. Then we have the European Conservatives and Reformists, the right-wing group here. And then we have, of course, the Greens, globalists, environmentalists, liberals here. And then we have the ID, which is the far-right group here. And the non-inscrits, they are basically just like, they can be communists or they can be neo-Nazists. They can be basically whatever. They're in between. Mostly people who don't feel home in any of these groups, or who have been excluded from one of those groups. Here we see the Commission chair, and she is from the centrist Liberal Party, and her ideology is ultra-progressivism, globalism, environmentalism, elitism. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. Now we have the Data Explorer here. This will be more interesting the more you play, because you can see who is the most influential politician right now. All these influence voting decisions will say 0, because no votes have been taken, so no one has influenced anyone in any direction, but these will be updated later on. Then we have implemented policy here, and right now, basically when the game starts, you start with certain policies that are activated randomly, basically, and that generates like the existing government policy that exists, or the EU policy that exists. So for example, now we begin at the state where we have a costless healthcare mandated for youths up to 25 years. We have mandated parents' councils at schools, ban imports of Russian crude oils, and so on and so on. These are the policies that are activated per default when we start the game now. And these are not pre-programmed, but they are generated anew every time when you start the game. And here you can see the ideology coordinates of this government policy. So we can see that it's capitalist, it's centrist in terms of values, it's internationalist. Okay. Anyways, I think that it's time to move on. And now we get a proposal from the Commission, and we can see here that it is pending on the Parliament, Council, and these committees. And I'll show right away how all those stuff work and what's happening in the committees, what's happening in the Parliament, what's happening in the Council. Okay, this is the proposal from the Commission. vouchers or tax credits to promote school choice, okay. Unemployment benefits, okay. Favoring allocation of housing, etc. for long-term residents over immigrants, okay. That's a mixed bag, but these are the expected effects of this policy, and these are the ideology scale of this policy. So basically the Commission has proposed something that would increase equality, would cost money for the state, would decrease poverty, would increase unemployment. It's a nationalist and populist policy. Okay, here we see the calendar, and we see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Basically the main relevance here is not the days themselves, but rather that you see in which order things will happen. For example, you begin with the interview here, it's Monday, the first event. The second event, Tuesday, it's a committee meeting. Then we have plenary session. Wednesday is empty, there's nothing happening there. On Thursday we have office briefing, where we have, for example, opportunity to hire staff or fire staff, assign tasks, etc. On Friday we have nothing. Okay, let's get moving. So okay, now we are in the news studio. We have Hannah from Really Reliable News, and she asks if we are fans of establishing vouchers or tax credits to promote school choice. Let's say we're not sure. And by the way, this interview anyways, it doesn't affect anyone because we don't yet have any acquaintances that we can influence based on our voting recommendations. Okay, unemployment benefits, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Okay, so now I'm undecided on this policy. Anyways, it doesn't affect anything yet because we don't have any acquaintances and our voter base hasn't yet formed, so it's basically, it doesn't really matter what we say now. Okay, now we're in a committee, and we see that here we have the prestige points that we have available, and that's 0. And right now, per default, every amendment costs 15 prestige points. And basically what happens is that every turn, in the beginning of the turn, you receive an amount of prestige points based on the strength of your organization. The more employees you have, the more competent they are, the more prestige points you earn. And they get annulled every turn, so after the turn, all the points that are not spent will go to 0. So you shouldn't save them because they don't actually accumulate in any kind of bank. And this means that, for example, if you start off with a very strong organization and you have a lot of points, so let's say that you run out of money and the employees will resign, then suddenly you will lose your points. So you would benefit from actually consuming these points when you have them. Of course, given that you have something that you're interested in using them for. But right now we have 0 points, so we can't do any proposals from here. Okay, now it's time for the committee sitting, and this is the discussion view. Here is the proposal that we saw earlier from the Commission, and now we can see that someone is proposing cancelling this amendment. Okay, well, it is indeed quite expensive. Okay, which party were we in? No, okay. I think I took the non-inscrits. Okay, well, I'm against. I'm a communist now, for some reason. Okay, favoring the allocation of housing job opportunities. Okay, migrants, anti-immigration law. Okay, I'm communist, I don't want immigrants. Okay, so now we can see that something funny happened here, because this is the original position from the Commission, and this is what's going to the Parliament floor. So we have high quality free school lunches, and we open up the children's daycare marketplace for private daycare providers, which looks a bit different from these proposals here. And the reason for that is that all of these proposals actually they didn't get passed in the committees, and in one of these committees, this is our committee, but in one of these committees, Employment and Social Affairs and Culture and Education, people have added these amendments to the bill, and they have been passed. So basically, all of these amendments, they got cancelled, and these two got added and passed by these committees, not ours, because we saw which amendments were voted on in our committee anyways. Okay, so now we see that the bill has actually changed quite a bit since it was proposed. And we see that these are the final effects of the proposal. This is the effects of the original proposal by the Commission, and this is the final ideology of this proposal. This was the original ideology. And based on how centrist it is, I suppose that this will actually get passed in the Parliament. We'll see. Okay, we vote for. Yes, it got passed with an okay marginal anyways. So now the next hurdle is though to by the way, in the Parliament view that we were precisely in, there you can't actually propose any amendments to the proposed bill, because the bill is as is, and you either vote for it or against it or abstain. Okay, now we come to the office view here, and we have 3 candidates, and this person has okay skill sets, okay motivation for cheap price, so I'll hire him. And now let's say that I want that he goes and does some fundraising, because I don't want to run out of money. And now we see here that we have a low productivity, low brain power, low motivation, and these two will increase as you hire more and more competent employees. And here we see what is the operation that this person is assigned to, what their salary is, what their position is, etc. Okay, next turn. Now we see that we've lost some votes. I wonder why. This is us, and this is our ideology. It hasn't really changed that much, but we see that now we suddenly became nationalist for some reason. Okay, because of voting as we did in the committee, I suppose, for the anti-immigration bill. Besides nationalist and populist, by the way. Okay, and we see that this is our voter base now, and it is internationalist. Okay, this might explain why we lost some votes. Of course, the voter base will morph as you play along, as well as your ideology scores here. Basically, everything that you say in interviews, everything that you vote on in committees, what you vote on in parliament, all this stuff will change your political ideology positioning on these coordinates. Okay. So now we say next week, and we see that the operation for fundraising has made progress. And now this bill has gone to council vote, and it passed. Here we see who voted for, against, and abstain. So now we have a bit better grades and better equality, but it costs some money, and yeah. Okay. A new proposal from the Commission. We see these improvements or changes, and here we see the effects, ideology. Here we see again that on first place we have the interview, we have a parliament plenary session, and then we have office briefing on Friday. Okay. Now we are back in the new studio. Let's say that I vote for this stuff. Let's say that I oppose this stuff. Let's say that I oppose this stuff too. I oppose the whole bill. And now this came to the parliament floor, so these committees didn't actually make. Yes, they took away the streamlined defense procurement process. Okay, they actually changed everything except for introducing scholarships in primary school. Okay, so let's say that I vote against this. It got passed, but not with such a great marginal here, so it might actually fail in the council. By the way, the European Parliament is consisting of European parliamentarians who are chosen in the European elections, which are due to be held quite soon in June this year, I think. And these are chosen based on the relative size of the population of the member states. And that is what the parliament consists of, elected parliamentarians. The commission consists of the the commission basically is the executive branch. They make all the proposals that are then elected by the legislative branch, which is the parliament. And then there is the council, which consists of the heads of state of different member countries. Okay. Now we've lost even more votes. Oh no. We are progressing on our fundraising. The council has passed this new bill. Okay. Now we have a new proposal from the Commission. And this seems like an anti-immigration bill. Yes, it is nationalist. And now we see that we first begin with an office briefing, we have an interview, we have a committee meeting, and we have a plenary session. Okay. So first let's see if we have any... Ooh! Kaije. Let's hire her. It's fantastic, like such a cheap salary for such a good person. She'll also have to fundraise a bit. Okay, now we are in the new studio. Let's say that I'll post this stuff, I'll post this stuff, I'll post the bill. And this means basically that now I became a bit of a traitor, because I used to be nationalist and now suddenly I voted for all this globalist stuff. So see, I moved from nationalist to a globalist. So now I suddenly became an internationalist because I voted or I opposed all these anti-immigration bills. But based on what we've done so far, so we are positioned as liberals, internationalists. That's our most defining characteristics. And in our voter base, we see that it has also changed, but it changes after our expressions, because, for example, we began as nationalists, so we see that our voter base has become more nationalistic. But basically, soon what happens is that the nationalists that wanted to vote for us, they actually might start to doubt themselves, because now we moved actually to the liberal direction. So that's basically how our ideology system works. Like, you do stuff and you express yourself on different political issues. That's how you position yourself on the political compass, or however to call this. And this is how the voter base can get formed. Like, they see what kind of policies you are driving, and then they choose whether they like it or not. And it comes, of course, after the fact. Like, you do something and that affects your voter base. And then there's something else that also affects it, but we can go to it more in detail later. Okay. We still don't have enough prestige points to propose anything here, so we just click OK. And this is the committee sitting here. Okay, now we get to vote. Enhancing security measures. Okay. Yeah, why not? Now again we became traitors, because we are supposed to be liberals, but we vote for this national security bill, which is more conservative. Framework for youth healthcare. Nah. Comprehensive programs to support refugees and language acquisition. Okay, now let's be traitors and we say no. No. Nope. Yes, definitely. Let's see how all this stuff affects our positioning on the political compass. Yes, we vote for that. Yes. No cooperation. Yes. Okay, now this became, as you can see, so many of these proposals, there were many proposals, but we see that many of them actually got blocked, like they didn't get passed. So here we can see the ones that got passed in the end, and they are expanding opportunities for cultural exchange, enforcing stricter immigration and border control measures, and establishing a framework for youth healthcare. Okay, that's a moderate bill. We'll vote for it. Oh, and that was actually quite popular. As I said, it was quite a centrist one in the end, so it's not surprising that it got passed. Okay, so now we see what happened to our ideology based on our latest adventures. Okay, so now we became more nationalist again. What happened to our voter base? Yes, it's ethno-nationalist now. Okay, that's nice. Now we go forward again, and the bill has passed the council, and we have a new bill here. Okay, and now we begin the week with interview, office briefing, plenary session. Okay. I oppose it. We see here that the fundraisers are making progress. Okay, now we're back in the basic view. So here we can see, if we look at the union-wide results, okay, not here. Okay, we see in the data explorer here, first we can see the implemented policy. Here we see the changes since starting the game, basically since the player started having any kind of influence on what's going on. So this is the changes that we can see. This is the ideology of the policies that have been implemented. So we can see that the government now has internationalist as their main political bias. Yeah, and also like more industrialist and environmentalist. And here we see who are the most influential politicians right now. So we see that Tim Meyer from Germany, who is the most influential MEP. And his ideology is conservatist, environmentalist, okay, and globalist. That's a tricky one. I really wonder if there are any real-world examples of such an ideology. That's a very fascinating combination. Okay, but anyways, he's the most influential one. So that means what's important with his ideologies is that basically, based on his ideologies, he recommends all these MEPs whom he influences to vote according to how he would prefer to do it. And that means that conservatism, etc., that he stands for get more popular because he has such an influence on issues. And then we see that this is the most influential person in the commission, and he's the leader of Belgium from SND, Socialists and Democrats, center-left. And his ideology, oh, this looks like a shuriken. Okay, he's socialist, globalist, and extremely populist. Okay. He's some kind of a Trotskyist. It looks like World Revolution or something. Okay. I think that we can look at elections one more time. So here we see France, for example. We see some basic information, the population, the country leader, and here we see her ideology and her acquaintances. We can see the latest poll, we can see the European elections. Okay, ECR got 1 seat, NI lost 1 seat, according to the polls, or if the elections were held today, this is what would happen. And here we see Germany. Let's see if we had more drastic changes. Okay, the Greens are gaining traction. Let's see in Italy. Nothing too drastic in Finland. Nothing much in Spain. Yeah, basically you can see that this is the latest polling. If the elections were held today, this is what would happen basically. Okay, I think that does it for this video. We can continue later on, and feel free to send your questions on different Mobocratic Union related topics, and we try to be receptive to feedback on development ideas and ideas for changes to be made. Join our Discord server. That's where you can actually send us messages. We read it every day, so that's probably the easiest way to get in touch. So yeah, we continue later.